everyone, and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined as always by Dakota Lasky. Dak, what's going on, man?
What's good, my guy? Not too much. I have my second vaccination coming up in 2 short weekends, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think I'm going to see my mom just before that for her birthday and Mother's Day this coming weekend, so looking forward to that. And yeah, otherwise just kind of vibing. I won a Smash tournament recently. There was like 12 people in it, but don't care. It's a dub. We take those. Won all Ridley. And I think I top 8'd at 1 out of like 33 or 34 people. That was pretty good. I got like 4th. I had some pizza. Been getting a lot of pizza lately. Been getting really lazy. Haven't been cooking. Just a lot of Uber Eats. I've been good about cooking and not ordering delivery for the majority of quarantine, and then like in the past month or two, I like on the outset, I've just been getting super lazy. But yeah, that's my world lately, man. How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. Yeah, and Doom, we're lucky to have Doom with us today. I'm going to get to you in just a sec here, but I got to circle back to something you just said. Do you know Mother's Day was this last weekend, right?
No, I know, but her birthday is this weekend, so I'm doing.
I see. So you're doing like a 2-for-1 kind of deal.
2 for 1, yeah. I'm in New York, she's in Connecticut, so gonna see her just get both done. See her this weekend, and then I'll be getting my vaccination the following weekend. In which case, I won't want to be up at home.
God, I'm still like 3 months away, boys. But I'm doing good, and nothing really special to report on my end. But we do have a special guest on this show making his return to the Omega Metroid podcast, Doominal Crossing, aka the man known as Reese. What's going on, man? How are you?
Ooh, he's back just in time for Challenger Pack 10.
Yeah.
Rise and shine up and early. Just kidding, it's almost 5 o'clock p.m. But yeah, it's great to be back. Love being here. I get my vaccine, my second vaccine next week. So,
nice.
Super hyped about that. The Moderna gang all together.
I was going to ask.
Omega Moderna.
Yeah, Moderna gang.
Yeah.
Moderna man.
You know what? I forgot. You're in California, aren't you, Doom?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Oh, man, I'm all over the place. I thought you were the same time zone as Dak, and, we're all of us, we're in different time zones across the continent here, so I was getting a little bit mixed up. Good to have you back on the show, though. Of course, anybody listening to this that is a part of the Omega Metroid Discord server knows that Doom is a frequent presence there, usually throwing up some pretty good takes and some pretty interesting stuff there. So thanks for coming on with us today, and on such short notice.
Yeah, not a problem. Not much going on these days. Not like I'm leaving the house much, and so, thought like, hey, you guys need my help, I'll be more than happy to oblige.
Yeah, I know, there's not... you know what, it's funny because, I feel like I never leave the house to do anything, but I still don't have time to do the things I want to do, like play video games. I've been playing the next Inspired by Metroid video game for, at least 3 weeks now, and I'm maybe halfway through. And it's because it's on my PlayStation downstairs, and for whatever reason, my dog has developed an aversion to going downstairs, so... we're going to try and bang that one out in the next couple weeks here, but yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, actually, I think that might be a great way to get us all started. What games have you guys been playing recently? Obviously, don't spoil the next Inspired by Metroid game, but that aside, what else have you guys been playing recently?
I can take a guess at what you've been playing, Dak. A little Smash, a little Valorant?
Yeah, well, obviously I've been playing Smash. I actually only play Smash in tournament mostly these days. I don't play Elite Smash really, and obviously I haven't really been playing much offline Smash because there's not much of that to go around. So I really only played in Wi-Fi tournaments. But then yeah, I actually play more Halo. Play a lot of Halo 3, some Valorant, yeah. What else? I like to go into random public Among Us lobbies. Oh, I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires 2. Age of Empires 2, really good. But yeah, it's been a lot of Halo, a lot of Smash, a lot of Valorant, and stuff like that. Kind of waiting for Halo Infinite to come out, maybe Metroid Prime 4. But I'm looking at my Steam right now. I've been playing some Risk, some Fall Guys, City Skylines, enjoying that. And then Golf with Your Friends. Really goated game. I even also tried out the new No Man's Sky update. That's been pretty fun. And then Dragon Ball FighterZ has three GT characters in it now, I think, or is about to, so I can have my full Dragon Ball GT team in that. So I would say that sums up all the games I've been playing recently. I also got Killer Instinct because it has Arbiter in it from Halo, and that's really fun. I really recommend that game. So yeah, that's what I've been
I
playing.
can't even play two games at the same time. Holy. Yeah, dude, I picked up, somebody was selling a new copy of new Pokemon Snap, and they were selling it for $60 instead of $80 because that's how much games cost up in Canada. So I was like, you know what?
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna buy this game. So I bought Pokemon Snap, but actually I haven't opened it yet because I am committed to finishing both this inspired by Metroid game that I'm playing very slowly, but also, like, I think about 3 years ago, maybe, I bought the last Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice game, and I was like, I actually bought Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice at the same time, and I beat Dual Destiny, and I was like, I'll play Spirit of Justice later. And so there's a new Phoenix, not a Phoenix Wright game, but a new Ace Attorney game coming out in the summer, which I'm very excited about. So I was like, you know what? Now is the time to finally go and play Spirit of Justice. So I've been working my way through that. I love those games. They're so good, so charming. So I got that on the horizon, and then after that, I'm gonna finish new Pokemon Snap, and man, by the time I'm done that, it will literally probably be July in time for Skyward Sword HD. So that's you know what? Other than Metroid and other than Zelda, I feel like I just don't have a lot of time to play games lately. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, growing up in general sucks. Like, I remember back in high school, like, I had all the time in the world to, just, like, play video games all day. And nowadays, even, like we were just saying, like, even though we're trapped inside for the most part all day, it's just, like, we got bills to pay, our houses are always dirty, so we got to clean them, we got work to do, and it's just, like, there's no time to do anything.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a weird predicament, and I'm going to use this as a transition, because I feel like this is going to be not a weird show, but a different show, and kind of like a show that is going to be more of what you've just heard here, where it's going to be three guys kind of talking about some different things, because there was a little bit of Metroid news in the making the rounds this last week, and I feel like at the heart of each of these pieces of Metroid news is the Metroid community as a whole. And I wanted to explore that topic because, I can't say that I've been a part of the Metroid community for that long. Probably really only since we started this podcast have I been really kind of in this community, interacting with people, getting to know people. But it's funny because all of these different pieces of news that came over from the last week all kind of showed a different side of the Metroid community. And I wanted to just kind of explore that with you guys. And this will just kind of be a free-flowing conversation that we can take it from here. But, I guess the biggest story that made its way around the internet this last week was the interview with the former Retro Studio developer, whose
Was it
name
an
is
interview?
escaping me.
It was like I thought it was just a Facebook comment he made, or like some comment he made that articles just like ran with. It wasn't even an interview.
You know what? You could be very well right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like Facebook comments in like a thread, and they were like, "Oh, screenshot that, post that. That's an article."
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. And the gist of this was him saying that Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch is very far-fetched. It's not going to happen. It would take a Herculean effort, etc., etc. This developer was not confident in the likelihood of Metroid Prime Trilogy getting onto the Switch. And this was kind of like part 1 of 3 of my kind of just looking at the Metroid community this week, because to me, and you guys can jump in here if you want and give your thoughts as well, but to me, I'm reading that and I am no game developer. I'm no game developer at all. I have no idea how hard it is to develop a game, how much money, whatever, right? But I'm looking, and, even not that long ago, the three of us were on here talking about how Metroid Prime Trilogy could work on Nintendo Switch, and I'm looking around and I'm like, I feel like it's entirely possible. Like, he had said something to the effect of, like, it would take a team of 4 to 5 people a year to do, like, make one version or like one part of this game basically. And I'm like, I feel like it's entirely possible that there would be like a team of 30 people working for a year working on this. Like, I could very much see that. Mercury Steam has like 100 employees, and they worked on Samus Returns for Lord knows how long, right? So I'm just like, I feel like this is very possible. And then I feel like the button mapping is also very possible. And you know what? I know it's not exactly a case of like, if you can do this, then you can do that. But man, I look at Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword coming to Nintendo Switch, which is like the motion controlliest game of all motion control games. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, if they can do that, they can do this. And then you look at some of the other supplemental evidence, and it's like, first of all, they've already ported and completely redone the control scheme for Metroid Prime 1 and 2. So like, I feel like when I heard people saying that it wasn't going to happen because it's Metroid, I was like, well, it's already happened. And then I'm looking and I'm like, man, well, they ported Pikmin 3, you know, and that's it, you know, that does Metroid numbers, and just similar things like that. And I don't know, I was just a little bit shocked at some of the cynicism going around from some of the Metroid community about the likelihood of this happening. And we'll transition into the backlash here in just a second. But I don't know, like, what was your guys's like initial thoughts? I think that most of us were on the same page here, but I guess what was your thoughts about the comments made, and what was your thoughts about, I guess, the reaction from some people?
Well, I feel like this is actually really interesting. This is happening because the exact same thing is happening in the Halo community, where one developer who just recently left 343 gave their comments on the development of Halo Infinite. And the entire community, and you know, everyone ran with it, like blah blah. Literally the exact same thing happening almost the exact same time. So I you know, both are examples of someone who definitely has a valid opinion, obviously knows what they're talking about. And in the case of the Halo guy, I mean, he just recently left 343. This guy hadn't worked on Metroid Prime or with Retro and over, or on Metroid Prime at least in a decade, right? But either way, both of them know what they're talking about. Obviously, they worked on the games, but they're one person of a huge like development team and publishing branch and all of that, right? So obviously, like, one person's opinion is not going to be reflective of what's actually happening in the game's development or what is actually likely, whatever. Just that one person's opinion, right? But you know, I'm honestly not surprised at the reaction because there's so little news. Like, anything to get people talking is gonna, you know, result in this kind of thing. People are going to latch on to someone's comments. They're going to take it as fact. People aren't going to, you know, think it through, or they're not going to care and just post about it. And so it kind of launches off. So, you know, it's an issue of there's such little news. People are going to talk about it, and it's just one guy's opinion, but people kind of take it all as like engrossing as the overall actuality of the game's development or likelihood of it happening, which obviously isn't true because anyone putting Metroid Prime Trilogy together would either be at least, you know, it would be more than one person. It would be a lot of people involved in that. So one person's experience would not be reflective of the entirety. That being said, 100% agree with what you said, Andy. I mean, we've talked about this on Twitter a bunch of times. Making Metroid Prime Trilogy doesn't seem impossible, especially with the technology today. Especially considering that Skyward Sword's going to be on Switch. Other games that require motion controls that are as intensive, if not more, are going to be on Switch. Metroid Prime Trilogy's been, you know, the Metroid games were ported into the trilogy itself. That like did well. Other games that are being ported to the Switch have done Metroid numbers, as you said. And I mean, I can play Metroid Prime Trilogy on my PC, even Corruption. They're able to make that happen. And Nintendo could absolutely get 4 to 5 people to make Trilogy work in a year. Like that was actually the thing that I thought was the funniest, that nobody seemed to be commenting. They were just like, oh yeah, that would be impossible. I'm like, is anyone not thinking that this is Nintendo? They could get 100, they could get 200 people on they could get as many people as they want to develop any game they want at any time. It's Nintendo, right? Like, they could do that. So to think that in the past 5, 6, or however many years that they could have wanted Metroid Prime Trilogy on Switch, that they couldn't put together half a dozen people in a year to do it, like, that's obviously false. Like, they could do that, and likely might have. So yeah, I think maybe his perspective just might be outdated, but again, it's just one person's perspective. I'm just not surprised because everyone's so it's like a desert for news that, like, any post. I mean, that's the reason why we get when like a janitor gets hired at Retro Studios, it's like something that people actually talk about as if it's like legitimate news, because there is nothing to talk about because Nintendo isn't giving us anything. So it is kind of their fault, but not really. But if there was more to actually talk about, then this probably wouldn't have been, an issue at all.
Yeah, I guess I'll echo those sentiments as well, because it's really weird to talk about, because, like, on one hand, we all acknowledge this, like, none of us are game developers. We have no idea what it's like to develop a game. We know theoretically that it's hard work, but, like, we don't know the details of what goes into game development. And so, like, I don't want to diminish the work that goes in to just do even a simple port, let alone something even beyond that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think what we have to do is we have to consider this as just nothing more than a piece of evidence, and you can do with that piece of evidence what you will. And I think it is a compelling piece of evidence. However, when you take it with everything else that's been happening, I think ultimately, for me personally, I still do believe that we are going to get Prime Trilogy at some point down the road. When that will be, I don't know, but I do think it will be happening eventually. I talked about this again on the last episode, but there's a lot of industry insiders that I trust, people like Jeff Grubb, people like Nate the Hate, people like Imran Khan, etc., etc. You can do with, I would recommend looking at what they've said on your own. I'm not a mouthpiece for them, so I would rather you get the information directly for them and then make your own opinions based off that. But that's just my perspective on the thing. And as we've also mentioned, Wiccan, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but he hasn't worked for Retro Studios in, what's it been, like 10 years? Did he leave in 2011?
A very long time.
Yeah, so I can understand why he'd have that perspective, because Nintendo's perspective of Metroid in 2011 was probably significantly different than their perspective of Metroid right now. I mean, 2011 was just a year after Other M and everything that was going on there, and so...
That might be the worst year of Metroid's existence. Is 2011, around that time. No, I definitely agree with you. Like, I think a lot of his perspective comes from, like, what he knows of what he worked on at the time. Like, I think a part of the comment, or there's some part of information, I'm not sure if it comes from his comments or elsewhere, that, like, the original source code for, like, Metroid Prime Trilogy or something isn't available, that, like, rebuild the game. Like, I don't see how that's, like, possible. And even if that's true... Nintendo's not above downloading emulators or ROMs or whatever, right? Like, they did it for the Super Mario collection. They did it for other games, I'm pretty sure. I would not be surprised if they just downloaded a ROM of Metroid Prime Trilogy or the original games and, like, tweak them for the Switch. And if anything, that's probably what they would do instead of rebuilding the game or going back to the original source code or whatever, because they've already done it for other games that and arguably have more significance in Metroid Prime Trilogy. So, I don't think that, like, his opinion or perspective is, like, coming out of nowhere or invalid or anything, but I'm just trying to look at it from, at least from our perspective. It doesn't, like, I don't see why it's impossible, and...
Yeah, and I want to add on that point
like
that you just made, actually, Dak, about the source code being lost, because I was doing a little bit of research into this, and I don't know if you guys are Final Fantasy fans or not, but if you are, you'll remember that, like, a year or two ago, Final Fantasy, I want to say it was 7, 9, and 10 all came to Nintendo Switch, and I think they were remastered for Steam. And very conspicuously, Final Fantasy 8 was missing, and that was missing, I believe, because the source code had been, like, lost or deleted, or they just didn't have the source code for it. So it wasn't available right away. But they were able to overcome that. They eventually figured it out, and I don't know what they did. I ain't no game developer, but I know that they fixed it and they released it. It just took a little bit more time. And to me, it's just like, that is totally applicable to this situation. Right. Like, maybe they could just download maybe they could just download the ROM, like you said. It kind of got me thinking, because you guys know me, I'm a Legend of Zelda mark here, but it kind of got me thinking, like, okay, so we had a developmental studio named Grezzo, and they've developed all of the Zelda remakes so far. So they did, like, Link's Awakening and Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, so they did Twilight Princess HD, which sold like 1 million copies and change for the Wii U. They did Wind Waker HD, which sold 2 million copies and change for the Wii U. They've worked on a lot of stuff, and, like, obviously that took a decent amount of time and, like, a decent amount of resources. And I'm just thinking, like, I feel like let's just say that Grezzo switched from Zelda to Metroid, and they made Metroid Prime Trilogy, and they did, the typical year-long cycle development that they've been doing for these Zelda games. And it's like, I could absolutely see Metroid Prime selling 2 million and change on Nintendo Switch or more. So like, I just don't buy that argument of like why they wouldn't do it, and why it wouldn't make sense to bring these games over to Nintendo Switch, especially if you're going to try and hype up Metroid Prime 4 before the fact, or maybe after the fact. I'm not sure. But I guess the second part, and I was just surprised at like some of the cynicism from a lot of people just saying like, nope, this will never and ever happen. And it just got me thinking, I'm like, man, is like, are we just like so burned and so cynical as a fan base that like, it's almost like you never ever want to have hope. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't want to have hope, so that way you don't get disappointed. Like,
it's like the end game meme.
Like, really?
Yeah, I feel like that has to be a part of it to a degree. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we were talking about this in the Discord, how, we're kind of in the midst of like the third great Metroid drought at the moment. However, as I also posted in that same Discord, I would actually consider that a kind of a good thing and not a bad thing, which, let me explain. I know a lot of people are getting their pitchforks up, but bear with me here. When you think of look at the way Nintendo treats most of their other B and C tier franchises. Like F-Zero hasn't gotten a new game since 2004. Mother fans, Earthbound fans, they don't even want a new game. They don't even want a remake. They just want someone to port a 15-year-old game and localize it. Kid Icarus fans have been begging for a remaster since Uprising in 2012. Metroid, despite all these great droughts, it always ends up leading to something down the line, no matter what. And usually it's something pretty good. I mean, after the great drought from Super Metroid, we got Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime. After the other M drought, we got Samus Returns, which is a really good game in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that at
Federation
the end of this,
Force too, though.
So So I'm sure at the end of this Metroid drought, assuming there isn't another Federation Force sequel in the works, there should be some more good stuff on the horizon.
If you guys want to listen to how a Federation Force sequel could be cool, by the way, you can check that episode out in our archives. All right, well, I mean, let's get to the ugly part of the story too, which was this developer or former developer who, my God, I still haven't looked up his name. I don't know what I'm doing here, but
probably for the
Mike
best
Wicken.
at this point.
Yeah, Mike. Okay, Mike Wicken. So unfortunately, Mike kind of came out and said, like, you know what? I gave my opinion, which is totally valid. That's his opinion, and while some people agreed with him and were very cynical of this ever happening, there was unfortunately far more people that took it to the extreme and said, like, no, you're wrong. They were harassing him. They were, just being generally inappropriate. And I don't know, to me as well, I was just like, on one hand, it was just like such a fascinating examination of the Metroid community, this whole story, because on one hand, you have this fan base who's like so like hopeless, like they don't want to believe that something could happen or will happen or is potentially in the works. But then you have this other side of it too that is just like so angry that this guy had the audacity to say, like, you know what, in my professional opinion, I don't think it's very likely, which, he may be right, who knows. But it was such a weird dichotomy there that I thought that it was just like really an interesting case study in the way that a Metroid fan kind of, I don't know, the Metroid fan thinks or functions or whatever. Obviously, that's just not cool what happened to this guy. You can all three of us disagree with him, but I don't think any of us were tweeting at him, telling him where to go. So, I mean, obviously that stuff's not cool and shouldn't happen, but it was just such a weird dichotomy that it just stuck out to me so much. And then combined with the thing that we'll talk about after this, it was just like, it was a fascinating week to be a Metroid fan, kind of looking at other Metroid fans.
I feel like it's just like, this just happens in every community, man. Like, again, like the same thing happened in the Halo community. People harass that guy. And then he had to put out another video and was like, hey, like people like harassed me and, were sending me messages, blah, blah, and whatnot. And he was like worried because not only does that look bad for him, but what if that affects, his, job perspectives in the future because he makes a comment and that might result in a company not wanting to hire him because it results in all this, ridiculousness and sensation. Mm-hmm. So, and same thing with this guy, right? Like, I think it's not necessarily the Metroid community. There's certainly tons, like there's like, and it doesn't excuse the behavior, obviously, but you see this stuff in like every kind of community. Like how many times you see like Nintendo post something and like Smash players or whatever, like where's the Smash stuff, blah, blah, like this sucks. Like I hate this character. Where's my character? All that, every community has this stuff and it sucks. And I don't know what you really like do about it. You definitely don't tolerate it and you definitely try to call it out where you can. And obviously like none of that stuff's okay. And I've, like you said earlier, this is like my first, like, not first, but like I haven't been part of quote unquote the Metroid community before this. And I definitely would say like after this past week or so, I unfollowed a few people. I was like, I don't even care. Like, I don't need their takes either. and so like, I'm just like, you know what? I just enjoy, like, that's why I like just doing this podcast. I just do the podcast. I chat with you guys and, Annie or whoever on the, and Doominal and on the Discord server. And we just chill. We talk about Metroid. Right. And I feel like even on like Metroid Twitter, just saying that I think is cringe, but like overall is just weird. I agree, but it happens in all different kinds of communities. I feel like I just try to enjoy the games and whatever. At the end of the day, it's video games, right? Like I'm not living or dying whether or not a new Metroid game comes out. Just like talk about it on the podcast and talk about it with other people who like to talk about Metroid. And that's really it. I think some people maybe have too much time on their hands and end up like doing stupid stuff like harassing some guy who worked on games 10 years ago about his opinion on whether or not it might be ported onto a new system in 2021, which is just ridiculous. People definitely have too much time in their hands, need to get a hobby, need to get some parents in there or something. But yeah, I would say that it's not necessarily the Metroid community in general. This is just something that happens, I think, in like every gaming community. It just really sucks. You can't avoid it.
Yeah, and sorry, Doom. Before you get going, I don't mean to pick on the Metroid community.
I know.
It's just like it happened to be that.
Yeah.
This all kind of happened last week. Actually, you want to talk about a community that is not my favorite? That's the Pokemon guys and the Pokemon community.
Oh boy,
nobody gets more games and more stuff than Pokemon. And every time they get something, you look at YouTube, the comments, the downvotes. Good God, it's just like. Give me a break. Anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off, Doom. Go ahead.
It's okay. I will, going off that, I will say I will throw one bone to the Pokemon community in that everyone seems to be on board with new Pokemon Snap for the most part. That seems to be the one game that hasn't caused a civil war in that community, but I don't want to
That's a game they actually wanted though, It can't be something new and original. It has to be a sequel to a photography game that was cool 20 years ago. Anyway, I digress.
Sorry, what were we talking about again? I totally got distracted. Metroid Community Salt. Okay. So yeah, there's I think like Dax said, on one hand, this happens to all communities, but at the same time, I think it's also important, to call out and to make issues like this. To make issues like this known and not to downplay, because I feel like there's a danger between going to one extreme or the other, and so on one hand, what I like to do is I like to condemn all this stuff like this, but I also like to highlight some of the cooler aspects of the Metroid community itself, not as a way to dampen all this stuff, because we should look at that, we should pay attention to all this negativity and learn how to improve as a whole. But, to also highlight some of the cooler aspects, because not all of the Metroid community like this, and it doesn't always react like this. I think one of the most positive things the Metroid community does is these yearly charity streams. Metroid headquarters just recently did, I think they raised like $3,000 or $4,000 for something, and they do this every year, sometimes multiple times a year. And so I like to highlight stuff like that. And then even in the general community, beyond just these specific accounts, when Metroid Prime 4 delayed, that was a pretty positive reaction all around. A lot of people were obviously very disappointed, but at the same time, they were also very understanding. But then you get stuff like this where, a few members of the community overreact. You have stuff like Federation Force, which, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a fan of the game, but you didn't have to have a giant 20,000 person petition to like cancel the game. People, that's how people are making.
I feel like
their
there
salary.
was a petition to cancel Federation Force, wasn't there?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was I think it got like 20,000 signatures or something like that.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is unfortunately stuff like this that we need to address and call out. And so, I made a Twitter post saying like, hey, you know what? If you were one of the person that harassed Mike, or you even sympathize with that, don't follow me. I don't want you in my community. This is I just want to vibe, man. I just want to grill.
That's what I'm saying. And you definitely had a good number of points there. I think it's definitely important to, like, if you see good content too, and like definitely highlight that. Like, I think a lot of like good stuff in the community doesn't get shared enough, and I think spreading more of that around is definitely important. Like you said, not to like dampen bad stuff, but like I think it helps like overall, like, not only like sharing good content is great because it's good stuff, but also I think it generally ups people's positivity to have it shared and see cool stuff. At the same time, I definitely don't think this is like really like indicative of the entire community either, right? Like probably like a fraction of the people that even like Metroid probably didn't even know about this, right? Like it's such a small amount of people. So I definitely don't want to give like that impression either. Because I mean, I would say like 99 out of 100 people, like if I saw, right, like probably weren't even aware of that happening or would ever do that, right? Like there's cool people out there just chilling like the game or whatever, or might have heard about it and might have, disagreed like we did, but didn't say anything, It's those like few people that really just like, shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff that are. And again, if you see it, like definitely as far as I'm concerned, like if you feel comfortable doing it, definitely call it out or don't tolerate it. Cause I feel like that's the right thing to do. But, it is what it is. It really sucks. And I also feel like it definitely doesn't set a good precedent, because someone should be able to, if they're not under an NDA or anything, they should be free to talk about their like experience in a game's development or what they know without like fearing backlash or like repercussion just because people might disagree. And because it's like game development, right? Like it's not like the end of the world. So like if someone might not think a game gets ported to the Switch, like who cares? And I think some people just put too much like value onto that for some reason. And it sucks to see, but hopefully we don't see more of that in the future. And it's a shame that did happen. Hopefully it's gotten better for him, and it sucks, but I definitely don't want to see that kind of stuff again because it's super lame.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because like, sorry. So it's really unfortunate because like, a lot of these same people are like, oh my gosh, why aren't Nintendo's developers more open? Why are they so private about everything? And then it's like they are open and you go harass them. And it's like, well, that's why, they don't want to deal with that stuff. You wouldn't want to either if you were in their shoes. And it's really unfortunate because I am, me and Metroid were talking about this. Shout out to Metroid, by the way. Definitely one of the coolest people on Metroid Twitter for sure. Super chill dude. But, we were talking about this and it's like, yeah, imagine you get to talk to a developer of one of your favorite games of all time and you choose to respond like that. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
honestly.
I saw that conversation. I was like, yeah. And also, yeah, shout outs to Metroid. Yeah,
Very
like,
cool,
yeah,
dude.
of all
he tweeted us out, by the way. So,
yeah, that was, thanks for the shout out.
to
That was super hype. We're big fans of you, so thank you. But, yeah, like, of course, like, if you had any, obviously I'd be like, hey, like, why weren't there more Ridley battles? Why weren't there more Ridley fights? But obviously, different priorities asking our developers here. But yeah, you'd ask them a legitimate question and not something dumb like that, or like what, like, it's just, I feel like we're on a consensus like that, but it is just bewildering that would even come across someone's mind.
So you actually took it to where I wanted to go, whereas like the beginning of the week was a little bit disappointing to see this reaction from the Metroid community, but then, by and large, I think by the end of the week, everyone I saw was like, that's enough of this silliness, and kind of rebounded, and there was a couple nice threads going around about like all the cool people doing cool stuff, and we were lucky enough, and Doom was also in there too from our boy Metroid, was lucky enough to be involved in a thread about some cool creators and stuff like that. So it was just like funny how how that seemed to go, and like I just want to reiterate, I don't mean to paint the entire fan base with a negative brush. It's not, of course, but it did kind of come to a head last week, and maybe it did hit me, to your point, because for the most part, like when Prime got delayed or Prime 4 got delayed, it was pretty peaceful and like pretty understanding and whatnot. So I was a little bit surprised to see that. But one of the things that I think struck me a little bit more is the Samus in Fortnite rumors. And this also happened last week, and we have talked about this before. This seems like the rumor that won't die, but for everybody following along, there is a lawsuit going on between Epic Games and Apple, and in that lawsuit, long story short, there were some documents that were previously classified that were made available, and in the documents, the Epic Games guys seemed to... they had a picture of Samus in there, and which leads people, or maybe Dak, you could even jump in if you know more.
Yeah,
than
I
me.
mean, it seemed like it was part of like a slide in a presentation, right? To either indicate like these are characters that they like. It
That
seemed
they
like a
want
mixture
in
of characters,
Fortnite,
like
yeah.
characters I either want in Fortnite or already are in Fortnite. So obviously there are images of
Yeah.
Kratos and Master Chief, but then there are other images of the girl from like Kill Bill and obviously Samus and a bunch of other movie characters and video game characters, which obviously a bunch of those characters aren't in Fortnite. So it seems like some of them were planned or might be just something that Epic might have wanted to do, but it hadn't been set in stone. But might have been in the works.
It looked to me almost like Epic was kind of making slides of like characters that would be cool to have in Fortnite, and maybe they were discussing it, and then if talks got serious, they would go out and acquire those characters. Whatever.
Yeah, definitely not a confirmation though.
Yeah, not a confirmation, but at least a discussion was definitely had about Samus coming into Fortnite. And so the majority of people that I saw were just like, this would be cool. And Dak and I have talked about this before, and they, both of us were just like, hell yeah, bring it on. So there was definitely another sect of Metroid fans, though, that was just like, you know what? Ugh, Fortnite sucks and keep it away. And this kind of got me thinking. And I want to pose this question to you guys and then give you some time to think about it, and I'll explain what I mean. But my question was, do you think that Metroid fans are afraid of success? And so what I mean by that is like, I think because Metroid has never, in terms of quality, it's an A+ series for the most part, right? But in terms of recognition, sales, it's still kind of like that. It's kind of like that band, that underground band that like only you and your cool friends know about, but like when it goes mainstream, it's like, I don't like these guys anymore. And so I'm wondering if like Metroid fans kind of feel like, Fortnite is this mainstream thing that millions of people play, a lot of kids play, and I just don't want that kind of mixed in there because it's going to change Metroid, and it's going to transform Metroid from something that I know and that I love and that is like near and dear to me and that feels like almost like my secret, and it's going to turn it into something else. And that to me was like the only reason that I could think of why someone would not want Samus to show up in Fortnite. And I kept coming back to that same question, like, are Metroid fans afraid of success? And are they worried that if Metroid gets too much success, that it will transform into something that it's not? And I wanted to hear your guys' takes on that, because I thought that it was a very interesting question. And again, just kind of an interesting look at like the psyche of Metroid fans and where we want this series to be and what we want it to become.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely one of the reasons. I think there's a lot of reasons why people might not want something in Fortnite or Metroid in particular. That's definitely one of them. I don't know if I would frame it as they're afraid of success, because I think just in general, they don't want Metroid to change regardless of what causes the change, And so like whether it's Metroid becoming successful in Fortnite and becoming popular mainstream, that changes the game, or it changes for some other reason. I think they want Metroid to stay what it is because they have like an idea of what the franchise is, and they can hold on to like the high review scores and like the the word of mouth of Metroid. Be like, this is what I know real Metroid is. I don't want Metroid to change, regardless of the cause. So yeah, I think you're definitely on the right track. I also think people don't want to see Samus do stuff out of character because Fortnite is like, takes characters and pretty much has them do stuff completely out of character, like the Orange Justice dance and like all that stuff. Like that's all stuff that any of those characters wouldn't be doing in their own game. I think that's part of it. Some people just straight up don't like Fortnite. They think it's a dumb game. It's a kid's game. And I think a lot of the time people usually when they don't want this kind of stuff, they have more than one reason for it. Like they might not like Fortnite and they also think they don't want Metroid to change. They don't like Fortnite and they also don't want Samus to do stuff out of character, etc. I don't necessarily think it's like that one reason, but it's definitely part of it. There are certainly some people I've seen just straight up say like, I don't want Samus doing stuff in Fortnite because I think it would make her look dumb and whatnot. Other M had her make her look dumb and look what that got Metroid, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, Fortnite is like stupid and we don't want Metroid in there because Metroid's better than that, etc. So I it's all mixed up in that same bag. I guess Metroid fans, like, they don't want that, like, the game to change from what they really know because they think, okay, it's going to be in Fortnite, the game's going to, like, get popular in that way, it's going to create more bad Metroid games, we're not going to get the Metroid we really want, it won't be the same anymore. I definitely think you're on the right track on that. It's definitely unfounded, but I think that's probably motivating a lot of people and why they don't want it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that statement. But Andy, you also brought up a really good analogy that I think makes sense, and that being the underground band that like 17 people and like some of the bandmates' moms listen to, and then all of a sudden they hit mainstream success, and all of a sudden they're posers. They're not raw anymore. They're not doing it from the heart. And I feel like I don't want to say that's the reasoning going behind everybody, who are against Samus and Fortnite, but I definitely see a little bit of that in the air to a degree. Like, people on one hand, they want to see Metroid sales numbers so they can get more Metroid games, but on the other hand, and then this is where Dak, you kind of brought this in, they're scared that if Metroid becomes more mainstream, that it'll become more quote unquote casual. And we already saw this to a degree. Yeah, we already saw this earlier. You might have even talked about it in an episode.
When
Kensuke Tanabe said that they were going to try to make Metroid Prime 4 a more casual experience, and so many people...
I don't even think it was more casual, just it'll be a casual experience.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And people are freaking out like, oh god, no, they're going to try to market Metroid to wine moms or something ridiculous. I'm being hyperbolic, obviously, but like people were scared that like, oh, they're going to water down Metroid. They're going to take away what I like about the series. And I think people just need to chill out a little bit. Franchises need to change to get more mainstream appeal, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Look at Breath of the Wild. That is not a
you knew where I was going, didn't you?
That is not a Wii era game, and it drastically changes the Zelda series. Best-selling game in the series, one of the best-selling games on the Switch, outselling Super Mario Odyssey. That's not a thing that happens. And obviously I'm not saying that Metroid needs to be Breath of the Metroid. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that,
I'd play that.
There's room. I'm saying that there's room to evolve the series and change that can make it appeal to more people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, waggle the Joy-Cons to make Samus run or something goofy like that.
Yeah. But even then, too, like, just putting Samus in Fortnite wouldn't even have any effect on the actual Metroid games, It's not like Metroid games would necessarily change because Samus shows up. Samus shows up in Smash, and that didn't have any effect. If anything, Smash keeps copying we have other M Samus twice, Like, it's so it wouldn't have that, like, effect, And, yeah, like, that's a good point. Like, I think it's a lack of awareness. Like, when Metroid fans reacted to that, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a casual experience, they were unaware of the fact that Metroid Prime is already a casual experience. It is the most casual FPS experience you could probably get, one of the most, especially the first game. So, like, to even think that Metroid Prime wasn't already a casual FPS experience is just a lack of awareness. Similarly, to think that Metroid would be changed by being in Fortnite or whatever, or it having some kind of negative impact, or Metroid being above that, is lack of awareness, because look at all the other franchises that are in Fortnite. Look at all of the celebrities that, like, so many brands and properties, like so many things doing crossovers with Fortnite. That's all good promotion for both Fortnite and all those IPs. Metroid is not above that. It would definitely benefit from that. Just having that appearance could potentially have someone check out the game. Samus is a cool looking character. Like Metroid stuff is cool looking. Like kids would see that stuff like, oh, I wonder what that's from. I definitely guarantee you that a lot of people like, and of course it became a meme of like, Master Chief from Fortnite because maybe kids didn't play Halo or whatever, but definitely people at least
no, Dak, it's John Halo.
John Halo, yeah,
right.
John Halo, excuse me. But definitely people more, might have checked it out or known about it. I mean, of course, Halo is way more well known than Metroid, so more people probably know Master Chief. But still, like, it's a crossover promotion that you really can't ignore the opportunity there. It's like the biggest crossover promotion opportunity in all of video games, if not all of media right now. Like, to even scoff at that, I think is ridiculous. And it would be, if anything, regardless of the promotional aspect, just as a Metroid fan, I love it when I get to, like, you see references of Metroid in other games and, like, callbacks to it and, chances. Obviously, I love playing, Ridley in Smash. I think that's cool. So, like, the opportunity, like, to play as Samus in another game makes me want to go play that game, and that's cool. That's a new video game experience. That's fun, right? That's what video games are about. So I don't know, like that. It would be just as cool if I saw Samus show up in a Street Fighter game or whatever, because I'd be like, wow, that'd be sick. I'm gonna go play them. I just was talking about. I literally bought Killer Instinct solely to play as Arbiter in that game. I have not touched another character. I played as General Ram, another guest character from Gears of War. Even more proving my point. I literally bought that game just to play Arbiter, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and I'm still playing the game. So, like, to think that people might not check it out, that's just not true. So I would love to see it. I think it would be so awesome for Metroid. It would make Metroid look really cool, I think, and I'd love to see, like, their take on Samus and what other cool items and whatever, like what glider she'd have and whatever. Like, who cares? It's fun. It's video games. Like, it's cool to have fun with it sometimes.
Well, I don't even buy that reasoning in the first place. People like, oh, I'll never be able to take Metroid seriously if she does the default dance. First off, the default dance is way more serious than anything in Other M. And second of all, I mean, look at all the other characters that are in Fortnite to begin with. I mean, John Wick. Are you gonna watch John Wick and be like, you know what? I was enjoying this movie, but I saw him dancing in Fortnite. And now I can't take this movie seriously anymore. It's like, no, that's obviously ludicrous.
I mean, even if you play Smash Bros, there's a ton of stuff that Samus and Ridley and Dark Samus all do that is completely out of character, that has nothing to do with Metroid, that is completely contrast to what they do in their games, and no one has a problem with that because it's a Nintendo game. But if it's Fortnite, which would, if anything, it's really not changing the character much at all. It's just be holding a gun or whatever. That's too much. So I don't know.
So and let's be clear also, like, if you're listening out there and you're just like, you know what, I think that Samus in Fortnite sucks, like, you know what, that's totally fine.
Then stop listening. Oh, sorry.
But I mean, I was talking about this earlier with a friend of mine on Twitter, and he was just like, man, like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't think that it would be beneficial at all. And I'm like, to Dak's point, I almost forgot to interject this. To Dak's point, he just bought a fighting game to play as Arbiter. Man, about a year ago, I fired up Soul Calibur 2 again, which I bought specifically, and the only reason I bought it was because Link was in the game. So it's very much a good marketing tool. But so I was talking to this friend of mine, and he's like, I don't get it because it's just like a skin. Like, what's the big deal? And I was just like, so imagine this scenario. Like, so I've never played Fortnite. That's not really like my thing, right? But I would if I knew that Samus was going to be in it. I would check it out. Like, why not? But the thing is, like, imagine how many people go the opposite direction where they're already playing Fortnite and they're just like, man, this is cool. Like, who's this cool looking robot? Like, I'm going to go and check this out.
Yeah.
And like, we're talking about people not just playing on the Switch. We're talking about people that are playing on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, whatever. Like, that there's a lot of eyeballs that's on Samus. And you know what? Even if every single one of them was just like, you know what, this character sucks. Like, there's really no harm or foul because I'm pretty sure that there's not going to be any Fortnite references in Metroid Prime 4. So, like, it's really a risk-free proposition. And
yeah, you say that now. Just you wait until Metroid Prime 4 comes out and you start building forts.
How do you think they're funding since the game restarted?
if you know what, if we're talking about Fortnite and Metroid Prime 4, come at me at Spiteri316 and
Metroid Prime 4.
Hex my family.
I mean, even like Smash Bros. Like that's literally that's how I got into Metroid. Is I played Smash 64. I was like, whoa, look at that cool robot character. Where are they from? And I found out they're from this game called Metroid, and my parents were like, well, there's 2 new Metroid games coming out. That's dope. They probably didn't say that. I don't know what they said. I was 5 years old. But, and that's how I got into Metroid. There's definitely kids that would, or whoever, it doesn't even have to be kids, it could be anybody who's playing Fortnite. They might not know what Metroid is, or who Samus is, or what Metroid is. And they'd be like, wow, this is a really cool character. Like, I love sci-fi, whatever. Like, that's cool robot. That's cool, I don't know, whatever it is. Person in a suit. I might check it out, especially if they are, they might not if they're playing on PC or Xbox or whatever, though they could. But so many people have Switches now. If they're playing on Fortnite on Switch, or they might have a Switch otherwise, and then Metroid Prime 4 comes out, they might recognize Samus, even if they didn't immediately go and play Metroid games after encountering Samus in Fortnite. They might recognize and be like, oh, I recognize that character. Oh, a new Metroid game. Oh, that's where Samus is from. Oh, I might go play that. I have a Switch. Boom. That's just so simple right there. And I feel like that definitely happens. That's how a bunch of us got into, Metroid originally. And at the worst, okay, Samus just shows up, and then Metroid games come out, and nothing changes. Like, it's not like we paid for Samus to show up in Fortnite. We didn't lose anything. You don't have to play Fortnite if you don't like it, so it doesn't affect you. So I feel like there's almost no downside to it. If anything, it would be funny. I personally like seeing I thought it was really funny when Master Chief showed up in Fortnite. He's driving around the little tiny mongoose and doing the default dance. Like, that's funny, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be super serious, because then I know I can still go back and play Halo 3, which still takes itself seriously and doesn't have Master Chief doing the default dance in it. And even if he did at this point, whatever, I'm like 27, I don't care. But still, like, it wouldn't be a big deal. So I think that's the end of the day. Maybe when there's more Metroid news, people will even forget about this, And even when if Samus does come out in Fortnite, it might be a big deal for a week or two, and people will enjoy it, and the people who don't like it will eventually, find something else to complain about.
So, thank you for kind of taking the ball there for a second, because I was looking for something, and I found it while you were talking there, and it was a point that I wanted to bring up, but I saw a tweet, and the Twitter account that tweeted it is at Mana the Blue Bun. And I have no idea if this is true or not. No idea at all. But this person said, hi, as someone who runs a comic shop, a Fortnite Batman crossover just started. I have never seen so many new customers coming in to buy not only that, but other comics ever. It was a huge boost to our sales. If Samus is in Fortnite, that could literally only be good for Metroid. And I tend to agree with this. And like, even if it was a complete flop and it was a complete, like, nobody wanted to check out Samus, like, you haven't lost a single thing. So
yeah.
That was the only thing that I could really think of where it's just like, why not take this chance? Like, why there's no downside. The only thing that was coming to my mind was like, are we just afraid of success? And I still don't know. I'm not sure, because I don't really understand the mentality. Like, I've heard some people say, like, what would marketing in Fortnite do versus Smash Bros? And like, to me, that's such an obvious answer. It's like a completely different audience that plays Fortnite than Smash Bros. But I don't know. I haven't really heard a great argument against it. And I keep coming back to that whole thing of like, we're afraid of success. We're afraid of the band outgrowing its audience and becoming something, and like, making a different style of music or something like that, So I don't know. That was just something that I wanted to pose to you guys to see where you landed on that. And I think that both of you had really like great thought out responses to that.
Well, to say that this was thought out is a lie. I'm definitely improvising this from the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I think we all pretty much summarized it really well there.
I think it's because all those Metroid fans out there, they don't want to get clapped in Fortnite. They don't want to just be running out there like, oh, I'm checking out Fortnite for the first time. Then bam, your boy comes down as Samus and just wipes the whole crew. They don't want that. That's why Andy doesn't want a new Metroid Prime Hunters game, because he knows that he's going to get wiped by your boy. So like, that's what it is.
Oh, man, do I have to moderate this?
They're afraid of the sticks.
For the record, I'll take any new Metroid game. I 100% if we're playing Smash, if we're playing Kart, if we're playing Hunters, if we're playing anything, that I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose. I'm not good at video games. I used to be good at Melee once upon a time when I was a young lad, but I'm not good at any video game anymore, literally. So that's water off my back. That's like saying that the sky is blue.
You got me there, man. But maybe I'll have to train you one day.
We we have a few minutes to kind of kill here at the end. I wanted to. This is completely off topic. So if you're listening for Metroid information here, you can just shut the show off now. But I wanted to talk to you guys and just get your guys' opinions because the memes were absolutely fantastic. I loved them. Nintendo announced this last week a new video game that teaches you how to program stuff, and I'm desperately looking for the name of this video game.
Build the Game Garage or something.
Yeah. The memes that came like, okay, I'm building Metroid 5 myself now or whatever. This is such a Nintendo game. It was so charming to me. I think I'm probably going to get this really quickly, just because we have a few minutes to burn here. What did you guys think of this?
I mean, I'm not going to buy it, but Nintendo's good at making games I don't want to make. But they're like, or I don't want to play, but like they make games for so many different kinds of people and different audiences. I think this kind of game is really good for, younger kids or whoever. Maybe someone who might need something a little more accessible in terms of getting into game development. It seems like a very simple, basic like game development tool. And I can't imagine, wanting to work in a game development tool that requires like your finger to move stuff like on a touchpad or like, controls or whatever, right? Like I can't imagine that being very efficient or comfortable, but it definitely seems like a really good tool for like young kids. Someone who might need something, a more accessible like starting point into game development. That seems really good for them. Not something for me, but it looks like Nintendo's really good at making stuff that like tools like this. This is a really good tool or engine or whatever. The Labo thing, right? The cardboard stuff. Again, not something really for me, but I'm sure was really cool for a lot of people. So I like this kind of stuff. I like, Nintendo at least tries to come up with these new different ideas, but yeah, it also made some new memes. I'm like, screw it. Like, they're not going to make this game. I'll make the new Metroid Prime Trilogy, new Super Mario Strikers. Screw it. Let's just make it ourselves. Unfortunately, it would probably be C indeed, even if it's made in their own game. So it probably wouldn't even matter.
So, not gonna lie, I haven't even seen that trailer yet.
My god, you gotta check this out. It's so cool. It teaches you how to like very, very, very basically program video games, and I was just like, man, like maybe this is like kind of me just being a Nintendo homer here or whatever, but like I just like loved it. It was such a Nintendo thing to make, and I was just like, imagine like how many like kids or maybe not even kids, like people that are gonna get this thing and kind of fool around and learn just like maybe just a little bit, and like maybe go on to say like, I want to pursue this like full time as a career, or I want to, I think that stuff is like so cool, and like honestly, like if we ain't getting Metroid 5, like let's just make it ourselves.
Yeah, I love that.
They probably would see.
I'm happy.
Game,
they would. I'm happy that this could be something that like inspires someone to really get into it like seriously. So that's really cool.
It's like Dax said, it's cool, but not for me. Like the problem is, I'm just not a creative, visually artistic person in general. So all these, creative type games, like Minecraft and stuff like that, like people can create some really cool stuff in those games. I cannot. I can barely do Legos.
I feel like anyone could be creative, man. You just gotta give it a try. Here's what we gotta do.
Halo's Forge. I was really creative in that. I will say that.
Yeah, because you're passionate about Halo. You gotta be passionate about what you want to create. Maybe you're passionate about build Game Garage for the Nintendo Switch or something. I don't know. What we need to do is like a challenge where who can make the best Metroid game in this game, and see who's the best and who makes the best Metroid 5. I think we'd come up with some good stuff.
I agree with you, Doom. I bought Super Mario Maker back for the Wii U. I didn't buy Super Mario Maker for the Switch. And I love playing the levels, but I'm so bad at creating levels because I'm just like, I don't know what works, what doesn't work. Even in like Smash Bros, like the limited stage builder option that they have, my stages are just like complete junk. But I love playing other people's stages. Like that's great fun. But yeah, all those games where you build stuff and create stuff and like nurture stuff like Animal Crossing and Stardew and whatever, not exactly my thing. But I'm so jazzed to see like what people come up with for, you know, the Metroid levels or whatever in this game. I was just like, I was so charmed when I saw this game announced. I just thought it looked so cool. But yeah, there we go. So that is our introspective into the psyche and the soul of the Metroid community. And you know what? We kind of talked about some negative stuff that happened, but I think that at the end of the week, it just really reinforced to me like how many cool people are actually in this community, including some of the ones that we've disagreed with here on the show. Just like it's a very interesting group, a very good group of people, I think, just in general. So that was kind of the happy bow on the end of this week for me, and it was a topic that I just kind of wanted to casually explore. I know that this wasn't necessarily like a lot of other episodes that we do, but I thought that it was worth talking about and kind of interesting to do so. So thank you guys for participating with me.
Yeah, hopefully we got some real news though soon. I mean,
Yeah.
people are down bad for some Metroid news, and they need it. They need it now. They need it stat. So I can't wait for E3. I think honestly, despite all of what's happened recently, I've honestly been feeling more positive about a new Metroid game than I have really ever. I really do think we're gonna see some new gameplay footage or something from Metroid Prime 4. Or a Metroid Prime Trilogy for Switch, or Metroid 5, or something. I really feel like we're getting something. I got a nice feeling inside, nice, Metroid feeling about some good news coming in the next month or so. So I really can't wait. Of course, for us, it's still going to be like another 4 or 5 episodes until we get anything good, I hope. But
well, we will do E3 predictions, though, before.
Yeah, true.
So
we
at
will
least
do
we can
that.
have some fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
yeah. I guess since we did this episode on the Metroid community, before we head out, I think we should shout out Metroid 35, who's done an incredible job with the Metroid event. She's been doing artwork every single day, which I can't even imagine. I can barely do stick figures as it is, but I've been doing some music, not every single day, obviously, because school and work and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been really cool, this event that she's organized, getting the community together to contribute something to every single day and every unique theme that she put together for all the days. And so if you want to do that, she has every single day's themes pinned to her profile. So if you want to draw something, or you want to make some music, or even do something completely different, you can follow along there, or contribute to the fanzine project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Took the words out of my mouth, brother. And definitely hit her up over on Twitter at Metroid35 and over in the Omega Discord server. We've got her, we've got Doom, we got a lot of other cool people in there, and of course you've got Dak and I. So make sure that you are joining and heading on over. That is it. That is all. Thank you for joining us today, Doom. We are going to get out of here. Of course, we want you to check us out over on Twitter. I am at Spateri316. Dak is at DakCity_. Doom is at, what are you at, Doom? Doominal Cross. There we go. And of course, we are at Omega Metroid Pod. We want you to head on over to Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, everywhere. You know the drill. Like and subscribe. Recommend us to that Metroid fan in your life. And leave us a sweet 5-star review if you think we've earned it. That would really be awesome. And if you leave one, we will read it out on the show, by God. Until next week, everybody. Take care.